Okay, everybody, so let's get started. Good morning and welcome to our event. I hope you're all surviving the current circumstances, and I don't think you need much of an introduction for today's topic. We're all being inundated with COVID-19. Everything you see, read, or hear is about the disease. So today we're going to focus on what we can all do to work around the challenges that COVID-19 is presenting to work as usual. And just before we get started, I want to say that we will have lots of time for questions at the end of this presentation. But in the meantime, if you do have a question that you'd like to have answered, please feel free to just post it in the Q&A box. And I have that open, and I will watch for your questions. But with that said, let's get started. So here are a few of the things we're going to talk about today. We're going to start with the various different strategies that you can employ to implement remote access to your IT resources for your staff. We're going to talk about tools that will allow you to efficiently communicate with both your team members and your customers and suppliers. And we're going to talk about making sure that your remote work environment is safe and secure. In the process, you're going to learn how to keep your business running during this challenging time, what we can do to help you, and as always, of course, answers to your questions. Now, some of you have probably heard this before, so I will keep it short. For those who are less familiar with me, I'll start by telling you just a bit about me. I was one of those kids who always wanted to know how stuff worked. Back in high school, I was the guy at the back of the room fixing the projector. But eventually, I was trained as a software engineer at U of T in York. And in my final year at York, I started my first business, a software company. We eventually grew to 80 people. I sold that business back in '95 and founded Connectability to focus on IT infrastructure because I foresaw that desktop computers and network computing were going to be the foundation of future IT, and certainly today they are key. So let us move along. Let me start by acknowledging the obvious. We are all in new territory. The SARS epidemic of 2003 had only about 8,000 diagnosed cases. You'd have to look back to the year 1918 and the Spanish flu for an epidemic of similar impact. And of course, things have changed a lot since 1918. For one thing, we know a lot more about epidemiology. But more germane to today's discussion, we're also a lot less dependent on being mobile in order to lead our lives and conduct our business. We can shop online, and we can have almost anything we need delivered to our door. Which brings me to today's main topic, working remotely. Now, just a few short weeks ago, this is how most of us worked. The majority of our staff was located in our office, with the occasional person working from the road or from home. Today, however, most offices look like this. For personal safety and security, many businesses have sent their employees home to work from there. But now what? Let's face it, for most of us, closing our businesses entirely for an extended period of time is not an option. We need to keep operating, serving our customers, paying our employees, paying our bills. So how do we do that? And that's why we're all here today, to find out the most effective solutions for riding out this epidemic with our businesses intact and secure. So let's dive in. In order to make a remote workforce effective, we need 4 things. Number 1, we need our employees to be able to access all necessary IT resources, whether that's a critical software application or a database, or just documents and spreadsheets. It all needs to be accessible remotely. Number 2, we need to facilitate communication between our employees who are now working across a highly dispersed geography, and other team members. Number 3, we also need to continue communicating effectively with our with our customers and suppliers. And finally, number 4, we need to make sure that whatever temporary infrastructure we put into place is just as safe from malware, ransomware, viruses, and so forth as our office infrastructure. Let's start with step number 1, remote access. There are 3 common ways that we set up remote access for our clients. The first is what we call remote workstations. I'll explore the concept in more detail momentarily, but basically this is a way of connecting to a remote computer within your office from your computer at home. The second method is using a virtual private network, or VPN. This is a way of connecting your computer at home directly to your office network. And finally, the third option is to move all of your critical infrastructure into the cloud. Now, that solution doesn't work for every organization, but if it works for yours, it makes you much less dependent on your in-office infrastructure. Let's dive a little deeper. Many of you are already familiar with remote workstation technologies like LogMeIn, TeamViewer, or Kaseya Live Connect. What they do is to allow you to connect a remote computer, connect to a remote computer, one that's fully connected to your office network, typically located physically at your office, and which has access to all of the software and files that you require. This approach has the benefit of being easy to set up and expand or contract, as well as having minimal security risks. And the reason the security risks are minimal is because your home computer never actually connects to your office network. Only the program you're using, LogMeIn or TeamViewer or whatever, is actually connected to your office network. There is effectively a natural wall between your home computer and the computer you're connected to. On the other hand, this technology can be slow, depending on the speed of your internet connection both at home and your office, and what else is going on your network. For example, if other people in your house are streaming movies, and they could be because it's kind of boring sitting at home, that could impact the performance of your remote workstation software. It also doesn't offer the same screen resolution and clarity as you would have working from your office. For most users, that's fine for short-term use. But if you're contemplating a permanent or long-term work-from-home strategy, you might want to consider an alternate solution. Now, VPNs overcome a lot of the negatives associated with remote workstations. For many applications, speed is not an issue, and you rarely have to deal with screen resolution issues. VPN software is also very secure, making it all but impossible for a hacker to use those to access your systems. However, the other side of the coin is not as positive. If your home computer has a virus or some other infection, connecting to your office on a VPN, connecting that computer, no matter how secure the VPN itself may be, could introduce malware onto your network. We're going to explore the security ramifications in a few minutes, so hold that thought. The other challenge with VPNs is that they can be finicky to set up and to get working reliably. But once they're working, they are a great solution, subject to the security concerns we're going to discuss in a few minutes. Which brings us to the third option, moving to a totally cloud-based infrastructure. It's probably safe to say that this is the direction that most businesses are moving toward. The cloud has many benefits, not the least of which is being independent of any local, vulnerable, premises-based infrastructure. With cloud-based infrastructure, you can connect any computer and be working within minutes. But I think it's also safe to say that only a small percentage of organizations have completely migrated to the cloud. In some instances, doing this is difficult or impossible. Some software applications, for example, don't really lend themselves to being in the cloud. And sometimes, running the same application in the cloud can be considerably more expensive than an on-premises solution. Finally, connecting a home computer to the cloud has many of the same security ramifications as using a VPN. If your home computer is not properly secured, it could become a portal for corrupting your data in the cloud. So let's talk about security. If you're working from home and you're using either a VPN or you're cloud-based, here are some things you need to think about, especially if you're using your home computer rather than a computer that you brought home from the office. Number one, you should be using commercial, high-quality antivirus software. Free antivirus software, frankly, is worth what you pay for it. Number two, if you're going to be using your home computer, then after you've installed your antivirus software, run a full scan and make sure it's clean. I suggest using both your antivirus software and Malwarebytes to ensure that. Number three, and this can be tough, but do not allow other people in your home to use your computer. I'm sure nobody has a malicious intent, but particularly kids have a habit of ending up on websites they shouldn't, and that could run the risk of infecting your computer with malware. Number four, if you have Wi-Fi at home, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. But if you do have Wi-Fi at home, and most people do, you want to make sure that it is secured to the same standard that you use in your office. And finally, number five, you should consider protecting your home computer with the same kind of tools that you would use in your office. Things like threat hunting, multi-factor authentication, and even potentially a home firewall. But even if you've brought your work computer home, or you're using the remote workstation technology, you're not invulnerable. Here's some other things you might want to think about. If there are other people at home who are connected to your home network, how safe are their computers? Even if you have loads of protection on your computer, an infected computer on the same network could cause you all kinds of grief. And as I mentioned earlier, how safe is your Wi-Fi? Is it secured using the same standards as your office? Have your kids given out the Wi-Fi password to all of their friends? So if you are using your home computer, I'd encourage you to give us a call. For the next couple of months, we're going to be offering some of our security tools, like our RMM software, like WebRoot and Huntress, on a free or cost-plus basis to customers who are working from home. We want to do this to make sure that your computing is safe. So these are some things to keep in mind if you're working remotely. So that's the IT end of things. Now that we've discussed that, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about communication. And when I say communication, I'm really talking about two very different but equally important things. The first is helping your team to stay in touch. It goes without saying that face-to-face meetings are pretty much impossible in the current climate. So we're going to talk about some tools for keeping the lines of communication open. The second communication conduit is your connection to your customers and suppliers. And for the most part, those were always essentially remote communications. But how do you maintain an uninterrupted flow of contact when your staff is working from home? Well, let's start with team collaboration. The good news is that there are some really great tools out there that are specifically designed for this, and some of them even offer limited free subscriptions. Both Slack and Microsoft Teams were designed for team collaboration. You can set up channels for specific subjects and control who has access to those channels. So you could have a channel for your management group, a channel for your marketing group, a channel for your customer service group, and designate individuals as being aligned with those channels. You can also upload and download files for work collaboration. You can even save them within the platform. Microsoft Teams also includes calling and video calling, while Slack can be integrated with other software that provides similar functionality. Zoom, that's the platform you're using right now. It's a meeting platform that can also be used for webinars, but it's more often used for online meetings with video if you wish. For example, we now have a daily huddle where we discuss what's going on in the business, and we're using Zoom for that. And here's some really good news. Both Slack and Zoom offer free editions. Now, those free editions have some limitations, but for many small businesses, those limitations are not significant. For example, the free version of Zoom limits calls to 40 minutes and doesn't have the ability to record them. But for many businesses, 40 minutes is more than adequate. And as for Microsoft Teams, if you currently have Office 365 Business Essentials, Business Premium, or Enterprise, you already have a license for Teams. So cost really shouldn't be an issue. Let's turn to phone communications. Well, teenagers like to stay in touch with each other by text, but businesses operate on good old-fashioned telephones. So how do you make sure you are staying in touch with your customers and suppliers when everything and everyone is working from home? Let me suggest 3 options. First, if you're using an older non-VoIP system like a Nortel Meridian Northstar, or for that matter, just an old-fashioned analog phone, your options are unfortunately limited. All you can do is call forward your phone number or phone numbers to another number, like someone's cell phone or home phone. Or if you want to get really creative, you could forward it to a Skype in number, which would allow multiple people to pick up the phone at the same time. On the other hand, if you're using a true VoIP solution, like the free PBX Asterisk system, that we use, those systems can usually be configured so that you can connect to your Office PBX from home or on the road. And that's exactly what we have done. All of our employees have taken their phones home. Our phone system is still in our office, but they are connected over the internet so that we can use our intercom, we can transfer calls, and we can pick up calls. And finally, if you're using a cloud-hosted phone service, like RingCentral, BabyTel, or others, those systems are designed for remote communication, and you can reach out to your phone provider for assistance with setting up communication from home. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been working with many of our clients to get them set up for remote work. But if you're not there yet, please feel free to get in touch and we'll get things rolling for you. If you're already a customer, you can just submit a regular support ticket by emailing support@connectability.com. If you're not a customer, we'd still like to help you out, and you can send us an email at info@connectability.com and we'll get in touch to discuss your option. Or anyone is always welcome to call us at our main number, 416-966-3306, because, as I mentioned earlier, we're still fully open for business, even though we are working remotely. We also want to help you with staying in touch. If you're looking for assistance with team collaboration, please feel free to reach out to us using the same channels I mentioned a moment ago, either by submitting a support ticket or by calling us. If you're looking for assistance with migrating your phone services, we can help you a little bit with call forwarding. We can certainly help you if you're using our free PBX solution. However, if you're using a different phone provider or phone system, unfortunately, I have to tell you, you will have to reach out to your current phone provider to see if they can help you out. And just before we wrap up, I want to mention that we have put together a checklist that will help you get your organization ready for remote work. You can download it at www.connectability.com/remote work checklist, all one word. And I'm going to ask one of our associates to post it into the Q&A box, the open questions box, if you want to copy it down. So that's really all I have for you today. I want to thank you all for your time. I hope you found this useful. And now, of course, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have or offer any advice that we can about making this process as efficient as possible. So fire away, please. Okay, here's a question. For Microsoft Teams, can we create groups? The answer is yes, absolutely. That's what I mentioned when I was talking earlier about channels. Channels are essentially groups. That will allow you to communicate with people within that group. You can also message people individually, but you can, within groups, you can keep the confidential. You can keep the information sort of confidential. Another question, what can be done to provide something similar to the level of Sophos firewalls we have in the office for our people at home? Well, Sophos, for example, does offer a home firewall that is free. Now, in order to use it, you need to have a small computer or a virtual machine at home that you can run it on. Several of our employees, in fact, do use that. And I'm happy to send out a note to everybody on this call as to where you can download it. There are also some companies who make decent, not quite the quality of Sophos, but decent, inexpensive firewalls. Zyxel, ZYXEL is one of them. They're definitely a step above a traditional router. They can be had for, I believe their basic models, somewhere around $200. Of course, the challenge in this particular world is getting equipment, because a lot of companies are sold out, a lot of distributors are sold out because of the whole COVID-19 thing. But you can certainly try. We can certainly try on your behalf. And as I said, we'll be happy to send out the information on the Sophos home firewall. And some of them somebody commented a lot of them are closed due to provincial order. Yes, that's true. Just to give you an example of one of the challenges we faced, we wanted to order webcams for our staff. Every one of our distributors, they're all open, but they were completely cleaned out because everybody wants them for working at home. We did, however, find out that Dell had some webcams, and we ordered some from there, and they delivered rather promptly. So you have to be creative in looking for things like equipment. I'm always sending confidential reports to my team members. Would it be secure to send it through Microsoft Teams? So the answer is yes. I mean, Teams is encrypted the same way your email is encrypted. As long as you're sending it to individual team members, or you're sharing it with a group that is defined as being part of whatever your security group is, then yes, there should be no problem doing that. And I believe that's it. So thank you again, and I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Wishing you a great day and a short duration to this current set of circumstances. All the best, everybody.